All right, Alicia, thanks for hopping on with me today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Do you have your cocktail ready?
I do, right here.
Excellent. You're our coach today, okay? And we got a bunch of questions for you.
Perfect. I'm all ready.
All right. So, kind of tell everybody what you do and why you got into it.
Okay. So, my name is Alicia Ramos. I am a cognitive behavioral hypnotherapist
Oh, wow.
and also an empowerment leader. So, I got into it just because of my situation. And at 19 years old, I became a single mother, and I wanted to be the best example for her. And I didn't really have a good structured example, but I knew that I needed to pull myself out of the situation that I was in. And like I said, I became a single mother at 19. I hit rock bottom. I was on welfare. I wasn't able to take care of myself or my daughter. I had no help from like her father or anything like that. And before this, I was super ambitious. I moved out to LA. I had my own apartment, my car, and everything. I was just super ambitious. But as soon as I found out I was pregnant, everything kind of just changed and transformed. I like completely froze up and I didn't know what to do. So, like I said, I went and I went to welfare and everything. And from that, it really hurt my ego. And I wanted to find a way to like transform my life and pull myself out of like the gutter. And Tony Robbins actually struck me. And I was like, okay, I saw what he was doing and how he was helping so many people. And I ultimately wanted to help myself. So I was like, okay, in order to be the best, I want to learn from the best. And to me, Tony Robbins was the best, especially at that time. So I wanted to learn, since I didn't have enough money to go and work with him and learn what he learned, I decided to Google and find out what he learned. So that was NLP, and then from NLP to hypnosis. So I went and I learned some neurolinguistic programming, just, an easy way to talk to the mind. And then I went on to hypnosis and learning more about the subconscious mind and how effective it was. And from there, I had my private practice. And my partner that I was working with, also another hypnotherapist, she was a cognitive behavioral therapist, and she was helping children under the spectrum. And the same modalities and techniques that she was using, we applied it to our clients as well, because you have these children, they're not able to rationalize and be in control of their emotions and thoughts and their behaviors, and just like some adults, they're not able to do that, or they weren't learned properly healthy coping mechanisms and techniques of how to communicate and how to behave and think and feel that were really empowering for them. So with that, we combined our hypnosis, because this is a good indicator. Once you use the techniques and how they think, behave, and feel, this is a good indicator to the subconscious mind of what's going on, what has been programmed prior to them behaving this way.
Okay, so just for everybody that's out there that might be kind of new to so just explain the difference between the subconscious mind, which is the most powerful one, but less people know about it, right?
Yes.
And then the monkey mind, or the
the conscious mind.
The conscious mind, right. The one that we think is so smart.
Okay, so the subconscious mind, that holds about 88 to 95% of your mind power. And this is all built around 0 to 8 years old. You have your absolute truth, so you get it from your caretakers, media, society, and this is your absolute truth. You don't question it, so you don't have your rational mind to say like, oh, this is the right way. So all your positive and negative associations are right there. So it's like, I like chocolate milk, or that'd be a positive association, or I don't like my vegetables, that could be a negative association. So you are starting to determine what is good and what is bad, but we use that as negative or positive associations.
Right.
And then you have your conscious mind, which is only about 5 to 12% of your mind power. And that's your logic, your reasoning, your decision making, your analyzing, and also your willpower. So if you have a certain thought in your mind that says, oh, I want to do this, but it's not programmed in your subconscious mind, we have this filter, which we call as your critical mind, and that will determine whether or not you can go into your subconscious mind. So if it's already programmed, this thought that you want to change, if it's programming your subconscious mind, then you can continue to go and move forward with it. If it's not, then the critical mind will just look in your subconscious mind. If it's there, then or if it's not there, then it will kick that thought out. Like, oh, see, because it's not as powerful as the subconscious mind. So that acts as like kind of like the security guard to the vault. And your subconscious mind is that vault. So not anything could go in there. So that's why it's so hard for people to change certain behaviors and thoughts if it's not placed in your subconscious.
Right. Okay. So for example, like if someone tells you as a little kid that you're worthless, or you can't do anything right, or you never do anything right, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, before you're like 8 years old, you don't have a chance to argue with that or to rationalize with it. You just basically say, okay.
Yeah, you believe it as the absolute truth because that's all you know. And if this person that told you it is an authority figure or your caretaker or a parent, whatever it may be.
Someone you trust.
And they tell, somebody you completely trust, and they tell you you're worthless or you're not good enough, guess what? You're going to believe that you're not good enough. You are worthless. And then from that, you will have reinforcing examples and experiences in your life that also say you're worthless.
So they build that belief.
So then you'll meet people or situations that say like you're worthless. You might lose just to reconfirm your belief that you were worthless.
Okay, so like I remember I had a teacher like in 6th grade try to explain to me what a self-fulfilling prophecy was, because I was like kind of negative, and he's like, if you're negative, he's like, you're going to be absolutely correct because it's really easy to prove yourself right. So I have a question for you, okay? So this is for everybody that kind of grew up in a non-positive situation, right? And now they're trying to accomplish something. Let's just say it's lose weight or get a promotion or whatever the case is, okay? And they want to work on themselves, right? But they don't get the promotion. They're not losing weight because they're not doing the 3 things, right? So what are those three things that they need to really all get in alignment before anything will truly happen for them?
Okay, so you need to go back to the origin of where this belief was coming, because like how you said, because they're going to get down on themselves and they have this pattern of shame and guilt and blame. They're going to reinforce like, oh, I could have gone to that, like I could have got that promotion. Oh, now like, and they start feeling bad about themselves and kind of like, oh man, I'm not good enough. I'm not like, that's why. And they start blaming themselves and kind of like talking themselves down like they're not good enough. So first you have to go to the origin of this problem, because if you notice that type of behavior already off the bat, then they're kind of seeking validation in a sense too, because this job proves to them that they're good enough. Okay? But because they already have this belief that says they're not good enough because they established this belief back when they were a child, but they don't know this because they haven't uncovered this pattern or where that came from yet. They just believe that they're not good enough because this has only been told to them. And this job or what, losing weight is going to determine like, oh, I am good enough, right? And if they don't get it, then it just reinforces, oh, I'm not good enough, the shame, the blame, and everything. It hurts their self-esteem. Right.
So inside, really, truly, what they believe is, I can't lose weight.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not good enough. I can't do it. And then they hold on to this pattern because this is how they identify themselves as well. Because if they let it go, then they don't have this identity that says they're worthless. And it's so hard to break this story.
Right.
And they haven't come to a realization or consciousness where they really want to let go, because holding on to the story, maybe they have a secondary gain or motivation behind it. Maybe, oh, I'm going to get people are going to feel sorry for me, so they don't really want to let go of the story.
Yeah, because they get a little bit of significance from it. Like
exactly.
Right.
So they don't know this, but there is an unconscious motivation behind it. So it's more pleasurable to feel sorry for myself because I get X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But then also, they also don't know what's on the other side. The other side's unknown, which is why they don't want to let go of the story that they're telling themselves.
Right.
But it goes back to the origin of somebody saying like, oh, they're unworthy. So then it got reinforced in their experience and their belief systems and the media. Everything reinforced this for them that said they weren't good enough.
Because they're looking for it.
Exactly.
They've been programmed to seek to look at all the times they failed, all the times they came close to getting promotion, all the times they've lost 10 pounds but found it again. So they're building a belief.
Looking at the negatives instead of all these positives. And I understand that it is hard, when you're in that pattern to break out of like looking at all the negatives, and it's kind of and it's a little bit more difficult to look at the positives, but you have to like see that to start to build yourself up and getting out of this pattern.
So let me ask you a question. Okay, so there's a way. At least this is how I did it, right? Okay, so I had all these negative beliefs coming up, and then eventually I did an audit. So what I did is I took a belief. Let's just say I'm not good enough, right? Mm-hmm. And then I took that and I said, okay, I was told I was not good enough. I have all these things around it reinforcing that I'm not good enough. But is that true? And when I looked at it as an object, like here's a belief, is this true? And then if I try to argue with that, I said, no, it's not true because of this, this, and this. Then I was able to kind of
dispute it, exactly, and you let it go.
Right. So I'm like, okay, I was told this, it's not true. I was told I can't lose weight or that I'm too scrawny to play football or whatever. Do I have any control over this belief that I have? And if I said, maybe it's true now, but I do have control over this. Mm-hmm. So not only do I like check in to make sure if it's legit or not, and if it's too deep, you can kind of argue with yourself. You're like, yeah, that is true. But if you stop and say, is it true, or does someone just tell me this and I believe it at face value? Mm-hmm. So for me, that was kind of my first step to overcome it. Is like, okay, here's a belief. Do I have any control over it?
Mm-hmm. No, exactly, and that's what I use with my clients as well. We dispute all these beliefs. It's like, how does this belief serve you? Why did it happen? Where is it coming from? And when you get so deep and dispute it, like, okay, well, where did this belief come from? Who is it? Is it true? Yes, or how is it? Like, you rationalize with yourself at this point, because as a child, when you picked up this belief, you weren't able to rationalize with yourself. Mm-hmm. Now you have that rational mind. Well, like, wait, well, actually, this and this, and it allows you to look at the positives a lot more easier. Like, well, this did happen, but also this and this and this happened. Mm-hmm. So when you go back to it, and like how you said, you go deeper. Usually, when you go deeper, the reason why you hold on to it is it feels like it's protecting you. It's a protective mechanism, which is why you're still holding on to it. And it's unconscious, but it keeps you safe. And we always want to go towards what keeps us safe, what we perceive as less painful or less dangerous. If that belief is going to keep us safe, guess what? We're going to hold on to it, because now we have another reason to hold on to it, because, hey, it's keeping us safe. So why are we going to let go of something that's keeping us safe?
Right, exactly.
Why? There's no point of it. Yeah. But if you rationalize and say, well, can't this keep us safe as well? And it's a healthier, you're rationalizing, like, well, this could keep us safe, right? Mm-hmm. And it's healthier for us, it's more effective for us, it's more beneficial for where we want to be in life, then they'll be like, okay, well, if this is also safe, then I'll let go of this other belief, but it doesn't have the rational mind when it formed. Mm-hmm. So that's why it held on so tightly. But if you give it another option that's even safe and more beneficial, then yes, it'll like negotiate and compromise with you.
Right. Okay. So I have 3 things just popped in my head. Okay. So, I'm probably gonna forget I'm going into one, because we'll go down the rabbit hole, but it'll come back to me. My subconscious will feed it to me when I need it.
Exactly.
So one exercise that I do for people with like struggling with self-esteem or like confidence and stuff is that I do an exercise where I'll give them a compliment, and the only thing they're allowed to say is thank you. Because when you have a belief system that you're not good enough, or you were in better shape before, or whatever the case is, you don't take it in. You deflect it, right?
Exactly. And then you start to find out all these negatives about you. Like, no, like, that's not true. I have this and this and this. And you start focusing on the negatives instead of that compliment. Okay,
right. And so it's a good exercise just to, if someone says, you're pretty, or I like how you did that, or, I like your smile, or I'm glad that you like to help people. Mm-hmm. All you say is, thank you. Mm-hmm. Right? So it goes deep. Instead of like, oh, thank you, but I used to be, maybe a little more pounds, like, oh, I used to do more. No, just shut up. Just say, let it go deep, right? Like,
yeah, a lot of people can't sit with it.
Right. It's because it's awkward if you don't believe it, right?
But exactly, because they don't believe it, and also they weren't taught that. Mm-hmm. That's a behavior that's foreign to them. So if they don't know this, it's unknown, they're like, what? So they start to question it. You know,
Right.
they don't know the right behavior. They're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, it's not fitting in, you know?
Yeah. So that can be very hard. You know, something I did a few years ago, you know, instead of arguing with people, if they gave me a compliment, I just say, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And and another thing too, like, and it's kind of like a social taboo, right, to accept gifts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone's trying to give you a tip or something, you just accept it.
Yes, there's also a belief that you cannot accept it.
Right.
You know, it goes back deeper to why you can't, because maybe you're not good enough. I tell my clients all the time that everything they do, whether it's career, whether it's money, whether it's relationships, their own personal development, everything comes down to worth, whether you think you're good enough. You know, everything else is kind of your excuses to get to the problem, but it all stems down from your worthiness and how you view yourself, because that's exactly how other people are going to view you. So if you don't think you're good enough and you have low self-esteem, it's like, okay, well, why? Where did this stem from? Or,
Right.
You know,
And is it true? Like,
so when it comes to relationships, oh, you know, he's out of my league or she's out of my league, I'm not good enough. You know, when it comes to career, oh, I can't get that job because I'm not good enough. When it comes to money, oh, you know, money and worth, those are, you know, how much is that worth? You know, and then you're kind of saying like, oh, how much are you worth? Oh, are you worthy of this? You know, it's the same thing. That's how we understand. That's the languages that we unconsciously picked up. It goes back to worthiness, how you see your worth. And once you could change your worthiness, everything starts to change and explode.
Right. Okay. So I got another question. Okay. Or maybe I'm just looking for confirmation with this. Okay. So what I want to know is like, okay, so I grew up pretty poor, like kind of through the whole ringer of situations. Okay. And I didn't have anybody in my environment that was a positive reference. So what I did, what I was lucky enough to do, because I wasn't aware of it, right, is instead of accepting that, I went around looking for other people that have dug themselves out of poverty, out of hardship, and then eventually I got all these stories. Let's just say I got 150 people that is a positive reference. But I'm like, okay, this person came out of poverty, this person came out of poverty, this person came out of poverty, and I just kept studying these people till eventually I formed a belief that anybody you can get out of poverty, right? So if you don't have the belief inside or in your your close environment, you can go seeking references to help form a belief. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And you have to have that innate belief and drive within yourself. Because if you don't, guess what? You could be conditioned with your environment.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that your environment and your circumstances don't determine who you become. You know, like with me as well, you know, I grew up in a very large family. And, you know, my dad was always working. And, you know, my mom, she kind of grew up, and we were kind of just raised in a very like low income type of family. It was just very large. We had 6 kids or 6 siblings and everything, and she did drugs and whatnot. So we didn't have that type of structure and she was very depressed and sad. So we got all of that. So she would take it out on us and kind of scapegoat and say like we were worthless, and you know, it was just mentally and physically abusive to us. So
Same.
It was so hard for us to pull out, and that's also kind of why I became a mother at such a young age, you know, because I needed that love to give to somebody. You know, I didn't get it, so I wanted to be able to give it to somebody else. So I'm so thankful for her, because without her, I wouldn't be the mother that I am today.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful for that. Even though it was a hard situation and it doesn't like define me, I had to go through that, and it was a blessing in disguise, because without the struggle that I went through, I wouldn't be able to be this mother who has compassion for other people, who wants to be this best example for my daughter, you know?
Yeah.
I have that type of sympathy for her. I wouldn't know. And I wouldn't know how it felt to hit rock bottom and to get myself back up. And I had like this limiting belief about money, and like it was never around. Money starts fights. And so I would never accept it, but I always had so much empathy, and I would give away my services, you know, so many things would happen. So I understand completely. You don't have those positive role models. You have to kind of go and seek them yourself. And that kind of allowed me to go to like Zen Buddhism at 8 years old and studying all types of world religions, philosophies, and being very open-minded and respectful to everybody, you know, and that allowed me to open up my spectrum and kind of seek other foundations that are truly helpful and more representative of me than where I was growing up in my environment.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's I've thanked my mom. Same situation, right? Like, very addicted to drugs, very like project her feelings of herself onto me. You know, abuse, mentally abusive, physically, the whole deal, right? But as an adult, like, we have a great relationship now, and I've thanked her many times. I said, you know what, you tried your best, right? And all those like things that you feel like were bad, I'm like, I thank you for them, Mom, because it literally like made me who I am, and I'm perfectly content and happy with who I am. And without, you know, any of the things we went through, like, it wouldn't be working out so well for me right now.
Exactly. So yeah, there's a silver lining in every situation. You just kind of have to see it. And I think when you're too close to the situation, you can't see it. Because I know I didn't. That like, I was, you know, just very argumentative. I was always, you know, I always kind of had to stand up for what was right, you know, and justify things. You know, I always had to, and that's why I thought for the longest time I was going to be a great lawyer, because I always stood up for what was right. But then as I became more rational, I had to like put myself in her shoes. Well, maybe she didn't love herself, which is why she couldn't give me love. Maybe this is, you know, this and this and this, which is why I couldn't do it. But as an adult, I could rationalize, well, this is why, you know, it doesn't determine me. I don't have to blame anybody for it. I could just see it for what it is. And then I could make my decision and choose to be something different. You know, it doesn't define you.
Right. So, yeah, it worked out perfect, right? You can reframe your whole childhood into a positive, right? Okay, I have another question.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing that I noticed, and now it's a belief for me, and I tell people this all the time, is that you don't necessarily have to be confident or believe that that you're good enough or that you can accomplish something, but take action anyways, and action forms belief.
Exactly.
So like, yeah, so like there's many times where I completely thought, you know what, I'm not a good salesperson. And then I told myself, okay, I'm going to take action anyways. And then all of a sudden the confidence starts to build. Or like, I'm not good with public speaking, right? But I grab the mic anyways, right? In front of all that anxiety and fear, I'm just like, give me the microphone, I'm going to figure it out. And then it starts to build the belief that action always trumps, you know, like a bad belief. Or at least gets the ball rolling to kind of push you.
Yes, it does get the ball rolling, and the more you do it, the more you become comfortable in front of it. And also, the fear and excitement, it depends on how you define it. So fear, it's like, you know, it's the unknown, it's nervousness, it's anxiety. You have to also look at your physical sensation of what you're feeling, and also determine what it is, you know, where this was formed. Because excitement holds the same vibration. And physical sensations, you're just giving it a different name. So what you would feel the anxiety from fear and the joy and excitement from your excitement. Yeah. The physical sensations, if you actually recognize them and don't label them, they're exactly the same. Right. It's just how you're defining it. And usually fear is a good indicator that something is out of alignment with your true self. Because if it's fear, then you have to look, okay, where did I pick this up from? Oh, it's somebody else's belief. You know, like speaking. Maybe somebody around you when you were growing up, they're like, no, don't go in front of don't go in public and speak, because guess what? You're going to get made fun of. You're going to get embarrassed. You know, they're not going to understand what you're saying. You know, all these negative beliefs. But then you know deep within you, like, no, I'm supposed to go and you speak in public. You know, but you have this sensation that's, oh no. Unconsciously, it starts to bring up all the emotions like, oh no, I'm going to get embarrassed. They're not going to listen to me. I'm going to make a fool out of myself. And all this is associated with fear, but it's a belief that you picked up from somebody else. Right. Because if you had a role model that was like, oh, it's so exciting to go out in public and speak and just kind of talk about your passion and what you love, guess what? You're more drawn to that if you have that belief in that role model. But if you have somebody who's negative and fearful of it, you're going to also have that belief that it's fearful.
Right. So, okay, let me tell you a story. So, I was getting ready to speak in a bunch of people, right? And I even get nervous when I'm ready doing one of these little things, and the only thing in front of me is my computer. But so here's what I do, right? Like, I get all sweaty and I get hot and I start breathing like really shallow, and I feel all this like butterflies, and at that point I say, and now I'm ready, instead of saying, I know I'm about to have a panic attack.
Exactly. So it's just how you associate it and defined it. So maybe you have this belief in your subconscious that's saying talking to someone over Skype or, in person or wherever it may be where you have this anxiety, that's more painful. And that's why you associated it as fearful. So instead of saying like, oh, I'm anxious or whatever, just be like, oh, I'm excited. This is like a little jolt and then I'm ready. You could associate that to excitement instead of fear.
Yeah.
So each and every time you anchor in those feelings so you're ready to go when you go on a Skype call or whatnot, or talk in person or public speaking, you're ready to go. So all those feelings, instead of associating it as fearful and anxious, you're like, oh, this is exciting, I'm getting energized, and you're just changing the definition of it.
Yeah. So if you take anxiety and you take excitement and you put a checklist of how you feel physically, they're exactly the same.
They're exactly the same.
You make the decision. How are you going to use it?
It's how you define it, what definition you are giving to it. Definitions and belief go hand in hand. So your beliefs determine your definitions, and your definitions determine your beliefs. So, they're vice versa. They go hand in hand.
Right. So that goes with the physical body, right? Like your physical body, if you move like you're happy, it tells your nervous system and your brain that you're happy. But at the same time, you can convince yourself that you're depressed, and then you'll start moving like you're depressed.
Exactly.
Because your nervous system, they have to like match each other, or they're out of sync. If they're out of sync, then they don't know what to do.
Exactly, and that's why it's very good for you. If something is happening to you where you're unsure, you're starting to feel depressed, look at your body language, your posture, and determine like, hey, like this is a telltale sign as well.
Right.
And that's why Tony Robbins always tells you about the physical sensations and everything. It determines how you are thinking and feeling, and so you change your behavior, your actions, to be more in alignment with what you want. So when one changes, they all kind of start to change, and you have to recognize them. You have to make the conscious decision to recognize them so they're all in alignment. So when your thoughts change, your body language changes as well. Your feelings start to change, and if you want to get depressed, guess what? Well, put your head down, limp over, it all goes in hand.
Yeah. So if you're trying to reform a belief that you're worthy enough, right? So you have to have the three things, right? You have to have the thoughts to start the process. You have to have the feelings, and you have to take action as though you're worthy.
Perfect.
Right? Is that correct?
Yes. So in order for you to, but first the thoughts, you have to go back and dispute the thoughts first.
Kind of like audit all of the bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have to go down to where it was formed first. So once you could go to the root cause of it, and then, rationalize and validate, like, okay, this belief was true. You want to kind of let this old belief go. Like maybe if you were at a job, letting go of an employee and letting that go, like, oh, you know what? I know that this belief was true. You did your job. I'm so thankful that you did your job. You showed up in XYZ and this many experiences. So I know you're true. And I know that you did your job and I held on to you, but you no longer serve me. So I want to let you go. Like, I'll give you good recommendations, but I just don't think we're a good fit anymore. And you just let it go. You're still validating like, hey, this belief did exactly what I believed. If I felt like I was worthless, guess what? This belief showed me that I was worthless in this experience with this person and this person. So it did its job for you.
Yeah.
But now you're like, oh, I see, like, I recognized you. You did your job, but I don't think we're a good fit anymore. So I'm going to let you go. You know, I'm like, I'll give you good recommendations, but you're just not a good fit for me anymore. So you let it go that way, and you replace it with a new belief. So once you let it go, you have to always replace the old belief with a new belief. And once you do this, like, and you have to believe, feel, and behave, act like this is the belief that has only existed. Okay? Just as true as the old belief was, this new belief is just as true and valid. So you have to start thinking, behaving, and feeling like this was the only belief is true for that to be embedded.
Gotcha. Because then it goes deep, right? Because you have all those three. You have everything that involves the human experience acting in accordance to the belief that you want.
Exactly.
Right.
And once you know that this is the only belief that's true, guess what? That's the only belief that's true.
Right. That's why getting rich for rich people is so easy, because it's the only thing they know. They know that it's easy to get rich. Like people in great relationships, they know that they're worthy of a great relationship, and they won't accept anything less. Right? Like they'll act in accordance. Like, okay, this person isn't respecting me. I know that I'm worthy of respect, and it's absolutely not anything I'm going to put up with. Right?
Exactly. So they're like, I'm out. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's once you get into this habit of like knowing your new beliefs and acting on it, then it's like boom, boom, boom. Like, oh, like that's the only belief that's true. Like it happened to me. Like I feel like I've transformed my life. Like when I first started my program, I used myself as a beta example, you know, because I really wanted to make sure that this worked. And I hit the lowest of the low because it wasn't just like the welfare. It was kind of going back and forth. I went to a 9-to-5, then I went to entrepreneur, then I went to another, I went back and forth because I truly didn't believe that being an entrepreneur, I could have clients, I could be successful. I had that belief, this limited belief that I picked up from childhood that says, no, that's not possible.
Right.
So going back to a 9-to-5, that's security, that's comfort. So that was a protective mechanism, and I had the secondary gain for it, which is why I'd go back and forth. But then finally, I was just like, no, I'm going to go full throttle on this and like help people because I know that it's worked and it's super effective. And, within 2 months, I completely transformed. Within like the first week, I started noticing like a significant amount of difference, and change because of this, and I was like, wow, like, oh my gosh. And I started behaving and thinking and, everything completely changed. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I had to start keeping track of all the things that changed, you know, and now it's unconscious to me because it's so embedded in my subconscious. I'm like, oh, okay, like now it's second nature. Yeah.
And now you never fear taking action because when you take action, it's it reinforces exactly what you already believe, right?
Exactly. And then also, it's taking action instead of fear being or the unknown being fearful. I put the unknown is exciting. It's invigorating. I get to meet new people. I get to know more about myself. So I associate that as a positive thing. Every time it's taking action and the unknown, I'm going to get something that's going to benefit me. So instead of having a negative association, I train myself to have a positive association to it.
Right. Okay. Excellent. That's awesome. So like, I have a neighbor that's has like 3 or 4 different personalities. And I was telling my wife, I'm like, the only thing it is something happened and she's just trying to protect herself from some certain situation, right? And it's 100% true because like when you have, I was reading a study where these people kind of transform their personalities and like their eye color changes and like all this crazy stuff like their blood pressure goes down or if they like their personality is a guy that like is crabby on the verge of death, like their blood pressure goes up and like that's subconscious doing its thing, huh?
Yeah, it's because that belief is so true and undeniable for them that could happen. It's because they perceive that as the absolute truth. So it may not be true to somebody else who's maybe like cynical, like, oh, your eyes could change. That's right. But if they believe it with their absolute truth, guess what? It could change. Just like, for example, like Jesus, everybody believed that he was this, this miracle worker. He could heal the blind. Guess what? Everybody believed that he could do it. So guess what? He could do it. Right. Just if somebody didn't believe that he could do it, guess what? He wouldn't be able to do it. Right. But it's because people have the absolute truth that something could happen. Guess what? It can happen.
And why does the placebo effect work? It only works when people believe.
Exactly.
Right? And that's it. They have faith in a little fake pill. That pill just completely conforms, their body conforms to that belief.
Exactly. And also quantum mechanics shows you that with the double slit theory, depending on the observer, what they were going to see, whether it was a wavelength or a particle, determined what they were going to see. So if you already had the preconceived notion that you were going to see a wavelength, guess what? The observer was going to see a wavelength. If they saw that they were going to see a particle, guess what? They saw a particle. So it just depends on what the observer believes that it will see.
That's why quantum mechanics and science always leads you to God.
Exactly.
Because Jesus was speaking this stuff a long time ago. He was completely in tune with the universe and the creator, right?
Exactly. And, he just gave it a different name. Maybe it wasn't as scientific, but yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
But he's like, you guys are idiots. This is exactly how it works. And the reason that religion spread so fast is because he has his words and then he had his actions, right?
Exactly. And he felt it with absolute certainty.
Right.
Feeling was there as well. So
you just need a little bit of faith.
Everything manifested. That's why, in law of attraction, your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, everything has to be in alignment. But, if you're going to have this negative belief subconsciously there that says, like, hey, I can do as many affirmations as I want, but I have this unconscious belief that's still deep within me, nothing's going to change. You have to go to the root of the problem first.
So let's talk about, am I frozen?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. So you just see my face there, but you can hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, whatever. It is what it is. We're live. Okay. So let's talk about affirmations and how they only work if.
Okay. So they only work, so you could tell yourself as many affirmations as you want, but if you have this underlying belief buried deep within your subconscious and it hasn't been worked on, then you're just going to get false affirmations. So if you have this belief that you're unworthy and you tell yourself, I'm good enough, I'm good enough, I'm good enough, and you don't truly believe it because you have this belief that's in your subconscious that says you're unworthy, guess what? You're only going to have these false affirmations that say you're unworthy. You're like, oh, well, I tell myself I'm worthy all the time, but this is X, Y, and Z is happening to me still. What is going on? But it's because you still have this belief in your subconscious that says you're unworthy. You haven't worked on it. You're just hitting the surface when you have to dive in deeper to find out where the root of it came from. Yeah, and, that's why I got so intrigued with quantum mechanics, because you have to go to the origin of where something was formed, the subatomic particle. And that's why I went to religions and I went to the origin of where all of them were formed and how, I always go to the root of everything.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way. That's kind of funny. Like, I wasn't, not to get too religious on everybody, but I wasn't like super sold on any kind of like belief system, right? And because I wasn't brought up with it, right? So I kind of was able to do my own exploration, and it's kind of funny that quantum physics led me right to what like I believe is true. Like,
exactly.
So, I had a question, but now I had a brain fart. Okay, because my computer's acting up. But let's say that you are using affirmations because it's the only thing you know, right? It's like a surface material, like someone saying, look in the mirror, say you're good enough, and then you'll start to believe it eventually. But what if you added this to it, okay? What if you answered yourself? What if you said, you're good enough? And then you answer yourself, okay. Or...
Well, you're taking action right there, are you not?
Right, exactly, yep. So if you say, you can do it, and then you say, I know. Right? So you're reinforcing your own belief, even though people are going to think you're fucking crazy talking to yourself, right?
But hey, you said, geniuses talk to themselves.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, right? Like all the people with the crazy high IQs are always talking through their problems. And like Einstein had like all these like trans states that he went into, and he's like, I don't know where the answers are coming from, but...
Yeah, he would channel them.
Yeah.
All of it, he would get in that trans meditative state where he would just channel all the information. Tesla too.
Yeah. Wow, I can't believe how similar we are. This is crazy. Because I want to know the truth. So I'm like, I go all areas and just go deep.
Exactly. Well, see, like attracts like. That's
Yeah,
physics. That's
that's
law
true.
of attraction. That yeah.
Yeah. Just recently, they sent two atoms 21 miles apart in the opposite direction, and whatever happened to one happened to the
Happened to
other.
the That's entanglement theory.
Yeah, the spooky stuff, right?
Exactly.
Wow, okay. All right, so I know we're running a little bit long here, and the computer's acting up, so hopefully people can still hear me. But tell everyone where they can find you, social media, etc., and all the books you recommend too.
So you can find me on my website at journeytothebestyou.com or Facebook / Empower Generations. Also Instagram empowered_generations. And if you have any questions, like just message me. I'll be happy to contact you, or email me at ANOELRamos23@gmail.com. So the 3 books I recommend are, hold on, let me get them. So A Brief History in Time by Stephen Hawking.
Okay.
The War of the World Views by Deepak Chopra and Leonard Milner. And then, let's see, there's Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Myss. So if you like archetypes, she has a lot of archetypes in there. If you like Carl Jung, she kind of goes off of that.
Right.
So those are 3 that I really recommend that I found, some insight in. So I highly recommend those.
Okay, good. And then one last thing, right? So the thing that has helped me most is the mindset of constant growth, right? Because you can finish every negative statement with yet, and it turns into a positive, right? Like, I'm not a good salesperson yet.
Yeah. That's exactly what I do.
Yeah, I'm not in good shape yet. Like it gives you the ability to take action because you know that there's growth. As long as you grow, and that's the difference between the 5% in the world that constantly are learning, right? And the other 95% that don't finish anything, that kind of don't have any goals, that don't really...
They kind of just take whatever is as is, They're not going to they're not going to go outside of the line, because also they don't want to be rejected. They don't know what's on the other side, and if they stay between the status quo, guess what? They're okay.
Right. So that's the thing that's changed my life the most, is just a mindset of not yet. It hasn't happened yet, but if I constantly keep working, I end up passing everybody up that we're at the same level. And then 2 years later, I'm in a completely different position, or I'm their boss, or whatever the case is, right? So growth, people.
Exactly.
Growth. All right.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for stopping by. I had so much fun talking about this stuff, and it's like we're kindred spirits. It's kind of cool. All right.
Exactly.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.